So we're in here today replacing the hydraulic brake booster. This thing right here. And the factory manual really doesn't have much of anything, surprisingly so. The booster itself comes with some instructions, and they say that you first disassemble this. They don't want you to take the lines off the master cylinder unless you absolutely have to. Okay, fine, except this bracket right here is over the top of that lower master cylinder bolt. So the only way to get that bolt loose is to take these two bolts here off. They of course hold the clamps to these lines, which means these lines have to come off at some point. But these are not captive, so they turn when you try to unscrew them. Now that's fine over here because you can get a trained circus midget or something with 4-foot long arms to reach up and get the backside of that bolt. But this one, the access to the back of that bolt is blocked by the frickin' hydraulic brake booster. So at this point, I'm looking at, is there a way I can get a wrench in over there and then somehow get my arms back behind and maybe back these things out from on top. Okay, I'm going to try to find a way back there with my watch and my coat off. See if I can get to these lines. Oh, maybe I can right here. Alright, so I can get on right there. I don't have any real bite or any real swing, but I can get on. Now, how do I get this thing onto that other nut? Son of a gun. Okay. I think I'm going to do it different than they recommend. I think I'm going to pull all these rubber lines. I'm going to pull all the rubber lines out. Okay, so there's the clutch. Right? I don't want to mess with that. This is a fuel pump pressure line. I don't want to mess with that. If I can help it, although that would come apart easy. Just make a diesel mess. But this is in, this is out, or that's out. And then this is a return, low pressure return. So I'm going to go ahead and pull all three of these because I think I can roll them up out of the way. If I take care of those and don't get any crap in them, then that should be fine. And I don't care if I get any crap in there because that's going back to be rebuilt. Alright, so new plan. That's what we're going to try. Okay, so I got the hoses out, and then I could back them through all the different wires and whatnot and get them up out of the way. And it does give me quite a bit more room down in there. You won't have that line. Enough room? Yeah. Well, quite a bit more, right? So if this is going to work, it'll work this way. I was able to get these plastic clips out by using an angled pair of needle nose pliers and then breaking them. Yeah, they didn't come out intact. But there's enough left of both stands that I can stuff them back down in there. And then zip ties. Technical application of zip ties. So now I'm going to go back down in and see if I can figure out how to separate these two, even though I can't get at the recessed freaking nut on that side, and I can't get a socket on the end of that bolt to take it loose to get this bracket out of the way of the other bolt, which is in the way of getting the bracket loose. It's fun. It's like, I swear, like, I know there's a lot of stuff in these modern cars, but I swear some engineer did that on purpose. Okay, So yeah, these bolts are threaded all the way through. They simply cannot be taken off from the backside without taking that nut off first. So somehow I got to get this bracket out of the way because I can't get that nut off with that bracket in the way, and unfortunately I can't get the bracket bolts really to come loose because they're spinning unless this thing is out of the way. So it's like it's some sort of adapter plate. It doesn't show anybody's instructions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try grabbing the ends of these with a small pair of vice grips, you know, because I got this tapered bit here. I'm going to try to hang on to that, and then maybe I can get these loose enough that they'll come off with my fingers, and then I got to try to figure out why exactly. I don't have to probably get both of them off necessarily. Just this, well, no, they both got to come off. They both got to come off, and then this thing will move, but I don't know if that means master cylinder will come loose. I suppose it's an adventure, and we'll all find out together. Okay, so I got it off. I was able to get just a piece of it with a 1/2" wrench on the back and 9/16 on the front, and a little bit of back and forth, and I managed to work the nut off, which is some sort of steel lock nut. It clearly is supposed to be a captive, like carriage bolt. You can actually feel it when it slips by. So we'll have to see when we get it out if there's something can be done to rectify that, or if I just need to go and dump the steel lock nuts for something else. Now to the other side. Okay, master cylinder's loose. It is clearly some sort of stupid adapter. The other kit doesn't have it and doesn't show it, so I'm not sure what to make of that. I mean, the whole thing's eventually going to have to come off in order to swap it from one side to the other. Luckily, the gasket that was on it stayed with it. It's like when they first put these systems in this particular truck, they had to cant these things sideways, and so they ended up having to build some sort of adapter to keep the master cylinder straight up and down, because in their instruction manuals they show this thing at about a, I don't know, 45-degree twist, which would put all this in line so the master cylinder would be straight up and down. So they must have done it differently back there in the beginning. So now the instructions that didn't match what I already have say that the next step is to unbolt this from the firewall, and that you should be able to coax this whole thing out without having to remove all these lines, which luckily there is some flex there. Alrighty then, so you're going to have two up underneath the gas pedal that are relatively easy to get to, and then two over here directly behind the steering column that are your standard longing for death that comes with trying to do anything back up behind the dash of any vehicle. I'm going to get at them using a gigantic extension and a wobble socket, and then going right up through there. If you don't have that, I don't know, you might try stacking the Tears of Orphans or something, or that same circus midget that you used to get the ones loose on the other side. Either way, you know it's good when it's under the dash. Just accept your lot. Okay, so this is the keeper that holds the brake pedal actuator shaft on, and it's one of those things that makes more sense after you've seen it yourself. But basically, you grab with a pair of needle nose. Okay, right here, you'd rock up slightly. Of course, when it's still on the machine, it won't tip, and then you push. So you sort of spin it around. You can get at this part right here, grab, rock, push, and it'll pop right off. Easiest part of your whole day. They tell us we should be able to do this. Oh, wow. Not a problem. There she is, in all her glory. This thing can suck my Okay, so our side-by-side comparison. First, obviously that's got to come off. This is that extra adapter ring that's missing off of here. I don't know if it's because my truck is a mid-year truck or not. Different part numbers on them. 957D8, 428D11. I have got a rubber extension seal on mine. Looks like that ought to pop off okay. And I did unscrew this, give myself more room. I'll be sure to include that so that the poor manufacturing company doesn't get boned. So there's that. Okay, so this is kind of fascinating. Here's that adapter plate, and these are the bolts that cause me no end of nightmarish existence. And they've got this really steep angle reverse cut thread. So they want to tighten when I tighten, but they unfortunately want to back up when I back up. I bet they were supposed to have some Loctite. I'll bet that's what it was. I wonder what it was that I felt when I was undoing them. I could swear I could feel a carriage bolt slipping. I believe I'm going to use some mechanical Loctite. Basically means I'm going to go put a cold chisel on the threads and give it a tap. Give myself a nice booger spot. Then I'm going to put them in tight. And that should be fine forever. And the next poor SOB that has to do this will thank me for it. You probably don't have this piece. I suspect this piece is only used on a few years, and I think mine were never supposed to come loose, and that your experience could be much more pleasant. Okay, mechanical Loctite. Okay, with luck, that has it. And if there ever is a next SOB, hopefully they won't have that problem. Now it's on to attaching it here. But we need to get the insides out of this one and swap it with that one. Alright, so that's going to be in there like that. You just sort of, again, grab it with a pair of needle nose and tip it sideways, and it'll sort of pop out. You're going to bend it. See, I bent it. But that's why they give you a new one. If you don't have a new one, you need to figure out why it didn't come with a new one. Dig in your box more, or be really careful with this. I don't think it does much. I think it just keeps this little piston centered, and then that little piston comes out. I think I'd wipe it off and put a fresh spot of grease on the center of it. It probably doesn't need it though. I think I just wipe it off and use it. It'll be fine. Spring, push rod, drops down in there, new retainer clip. Alright, so we seem to have another difference here. This appears to have a groove inside the housing to retain the ring. Right? This one does not. This one they just pushed it all the way through and the ring hovered on the inside. I don't like that they're different. However, the distance between the top and the retainer groove is the same as the distance between the top and all the way inside on this one. So the tail shafts are clearly machined a little differently. I guess this would be nose shaft. Machined a little differently. So I suspect that again is just a difference in the fact that mine is that mid-year truck. This has also got a like a weep groove in it. This one doesn't have that. Okay, well, what are we up to? We're up to putting my adapter on. Okay, I guess it doesn't matter. Everything seems to be the same. So I need to put this back on, tighten it up. I'm sure there's some sort of torque spec on it. I'll see if I can look it up in the book. Otherwise it'd be the same for a 3/8 bolt. Then we're ready to install. Oh, yeah, transfer that rubber piece to the end, tighten this down, and we're ready to install. Okay, I should be able to fly this in the same way I flew the old one out. That's got everything, including that rubber biscuit, back in place. So now we go tighten it up, hook it up from the back side, and then we can come back around. When you put that seal back on, make sure you get it in the groove on this. You don't want to cut it up. In the groove. Easy, girl. Okay. You might ask yourself, how come I'm doing this with a wrench rather than a ratchet? Well, as it would turn out, I don't have any 3/8 deep wells. For some reason, 3/8 drive ratchets, deep wells. And my 1/2-inch drive deep wells don't fit. Hard road. Traveler me. To make it easier for myself, when it came to that bracket, what I did is I just tightened this on normally, because it was so much nicer to do that without this in the way. And then I just set this, and look how long those bolts are. So I just set this over the top with 2 new 3/8 nuts. It really won't matter because these things are adjustable up and down, and I'll still be able to put everything back together. I think that's a smart modification or a lazy modification. It's one of the two. Almost forgot. Your kit is going to come with 2 new O-rings for the ends of your hoses. They would probably be okay with the old ones, but I mean, if they're going to give you new ones, then you might as well use them, right? Unless you send it flying with your own fat, greasy fingers. And then you need to scurry around like a monkey who's lost his banana to track it back down. Alright. Now, we can fish this all the way through. Pull the cap back off. Wipe off all the schmoo you got on the end of the thing. Crap. So in the course of fishing it through here, I could see that, see that crap? That I managed to scrape off a little bit of paint from the new unit and get it inside. So that had to come back off. Now we should be ready, finally. Alright, all installed. Notice that I used black zip ties to hold down my broken clamps, just like the factory does. Now, what you're supposed to do after you've got it all installed is flush the system. And I think that might have been one of the things that I didn't do a good job on last time, and that might be why we're in here. I replaced the pump at like 170,000, 175,000, somewhere in there. And then of course I got like 193 on the truck now, so that made it to 193. So I think maybe I didn't flush it good enough and something went through and plugged up, but I do want to do a good job flushing it. You're supposed to pull a line, the return line down there off the bottom, but it's all the way down there. I mean, you're supposed to get that clamp loose down there. In my own personal hell down there. I'm not going to be able to get my arm in there, but I shouldn't have to. I'm just going to grab the return line right here off the hydraulic booster. That should take everything, and then I'm running it out to a bottle on the bench, which will help because I'm doing this by myself, and so with no helper, you know, you need to be able to watch how much fluid's left in the pump and monitor the color and stuff that's coming out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just need to jerry rig a long funnel so I can get down in there. For whatever reason I can't find my transmission funnel. Okay, started to rain, but I got it started also. Now I'm just pumping fluid through. Still looks pretty ugly. That's looking a lot cleaner now. A lot cleaner. I think we're going to call that good. I feel like I should have flushed more than that through, but the directions just say until it looks clean, and it looks clean.